Go ahead.
Hi, this is David J. Fielding, Zordon from the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and you're watching the anime Egotist.
And welcome back to the anime Egotists, where reruns happen every now and then, but for the most part you get new stuff, so you just get a whole new mess of things each time.
Yes, that is very true.
Yeah, you got me, Alex, and I am not guaranteed to be wearing pants when we are filming these.
I don't even have underwear on.
That is perfect.
And I'm Richard.
That is correct, and we are the anime Egotists, and we like to talk about the best and worst of stuff, particularly cliches. And before you say it, no, this isn't a rerun. But we recall when we did our worst anime cliches, a lot of you really liked that video. And first of all, we want to say thank you for the support. Thank you for all the likes and comments and feedback. But we figured, you know, with something this popular, we have to do a sequel on it, because I don't know why else we don't know why else you guys are here. We figured you're just here for that video, and then you can and then you'll just dip. But who knows? There are a lot of good cliches in anime, but there are a lot of bad ones out there. A lot of ones that to this day we still do not like. Even when done correctly, they're still not perfect. Sometimes they're not even done correctly.
Exactly. I mean, and then just to go back, I mean, the last time we did this video and this topic, it was during my old setup. So I was sitting and had a different background and really crappy webcam and all that. So I think a lot has changed for this video.
It's so hard going back and watching that stuff, because I'm just like, you know, I'm proud of how far we've come, but back then things were not going well.
No, so yeah, it's been a while, and again, animes are just cliches in and of themselves pretty much, so there's a lot we can discuss here.
That is correct. And we don't really have any more to shout out besides subscribe to the channel, buy the merch, all that other jazz. I also want to bring up, and we'll do this later, but I also want to bring up some of the comments people left on the worst cliches video, just so they know we're listening. But for now, do you want to start us off for what is one of your worst anime cliches, sequel style, Electric Boogaloo?
So this is one we've kind of discussed a few times now, because I've mentioned it, and I think this even was like the first one we added to my list of cliches for this video, and that's when someone sacrifices themselves and then in like 3 episodes they come back, or in like this very same episode they're back alive.
Yeah, I agree.
And this happens a lot. The 2 main examples I can think of is in Dragon Ball Super with Master Roshi. He literally dies trying to save the universe and make sure that his 2 students, Goku and Krillin, too bad to Yamcha, but Goku and Krillin can save the day and continue to save the universe.
Well, to be fair, it would have been self-explanatory for Yamcha to save the world, because he's like the second strongest behind Monaka.
Exactly. And he ended up, but yeah, he sacrifices himself, uses pretty much all of his energy, and falls over dead, and Goku and Krillin rush to him and use, I guess, their ki to restart his heart. And while it's a touching moment, it would have meant more had he actually passed at this point.
I'm not even completely focused on Dragon Ball for this one, but it just feels like it lessens the impact of their sacrifice. Sure, we don't always want to see these characters die, but if you're going to hint at a sacrifice, you might want to go through with it. Unless you find some amazing way to bring them back that makes me completely forget about it, it just doesn't. It feels like you're tugging at our heartstrings, but not in a good way. So I can definitely co-sign onto that.
Yeah, the other example, just real quick, is in Fairy Tail that I have, Master Makarov. In the final arc, it's supposed to be the big climactic war between the Dark Wizard and all of the protagonists. He uses his ultimate spell, which uses his life energy to literally wipe his enemies from the world. And he does it to save his family, which is the main cast. And he's supposed to die. Well, about 10 episodes later, they bring him out on a wheelchair. And it's like, it was literally a passing of the torch moment. He's sacrificing himself so that his family can live, and now he's back alive. It's like, I know they wanted to keep him alive and make it a happy ending, but war has sacrifice, and they can show that. And I think they should have.
Yeah, yeah, but like it happens. It's one of those things where it does bother me, but it's like it doesn't bother me as much as other cliches, which we're definitely going to get to.
I mean, if they have a reason for the character coming back to life, it would be fine. But these are at like the end of story arcs and end of series. It's like there's no reason for there could be sacrifice in these final battles.
No, yeah, and that's why I said earlier that I completely co-sign. We're on the same page. It's just it bothers you a little more than it bothers me at this point, though.
Yeah, I think I've shown that in multiple videos now.
Yep. You want to know my first one though?
Go right ahead.
Characters having to relearn lessons so quickly.
Okay.
Like hypothetically, let's say you have a character who is very cold, doesn't talk to people very much. They go through some trauma, but they also find a way to redeem themselves, and they become closer with their friends. That sort of thing. Hey, do not make them super cold again and standoffish within the next few episodes. It's like in the witch arc in Black Clover. In the previous arc, Noelle had learned to control her magic, to stand up for herself, and to even believe in herself. Only for the very next arc, during one of the fights, for her to be like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And then her friends be like, no, Noelle, you can do it. And she's like, I believe in myself because my friends do. I'm like, you just learned this lesson about not even 10 episodes ago. I can understand if you learned the lesson at one point and then it gets reaffirmed like 50, 60, even 100 something episodes later down the line, but you shouldn't have to do it so quickly. And that's, like I said, I talked about before with Psyche K. The rich guy learned his lesson, became friends with everybody, only for the very next episode for him to be a total jerk to everybody. It feels like you either don't want to commit to developing this character, or it just feels like you're just doing it for a gag, and it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I can kind of co-sign onto this. Now, if there was something that happened that it's like, oh, I should never, that makes them go, I never should have changed, and they go back and then and it's within a few episodes, it'd be fine.
Yes.
If they actually had a reason that they went back, but then their friends brought them back to, hey, no, this actually is something, they're wrong, they did this wrong. If there was a story reason, if I can understand it, but yeah, no, when it's just random, okay, now I'm back to being aloof, or I lose all my character development in the next episode, it's like, yeah, I can completely co-sign.
Yeah, and the worst part is it happens so often with so many of the characters that we love, and even a lot of the characters that we hate. Like, we'll go from hating them to loving them, and it's like, oh no, they're back to normal. Okay, thanks for wasting our time, guys. Can't wait for you to have some development in the filler that never gets acknowledged.
Exactly. All right. So my next one is one that I only noticed recently with a lot of anime, and that's very over-exaggerated facial expressions. Anime's always had this, but it's getting more and more.
It depends for me.
Yeah, but they do it more and more often, is what I've noticed. And it used to be when you have the comedic episode, this comes out, but now it's like it could be a serious thing, and then you cut to the main cast and someone cracks a joke, and then you get the exaggerated expression. They might blow the face up and fill the whole screen with it just to show it, and I've noticed it in a lot of anime where, again, they do it only on the jokes, but the jokes could be in the middle of another scene, or it can just throw the timing off, I think, what I've come to realize.
I can kind of understand what you mean by that, because on the one hand, it does feel a little overexposed at times, at least in my opinion. On the other hand, though, it does lead to some pretty hilarious parts, especially with the infamous Joey Wheeler chin meme. If it wasn't for that cliche, we never would have gotten that, and I'm not willing to sacrifice that because his chin is wonderful.
But the thing is, it wasn't used constantly then.
Very true.
But there's
very true.
but it's become a little overused, especially in comedy animes and animes for younger audiences. Pokemon, I know, has done it a lot more in the last two series.
Yeah, thanks to Sun and Moon, it got. I will give you that. It got really, really out of hand in Sun and Moon, especially within like the first few episodes. Not actually, no, not even the first few episodes. Like the first 5 minutes of the first few episodes, it was like, come on.
Now, again, Pokemon is, especially the anime, is more for kid audience, but you don't have to do this to express all your emotion. All your funny moments have to be, oh, let's. It's like having a laugh track. You're telling the audience when to laugh, and
Yeah. I will say I'm more okay with it if multiple people are in the shot doing it, because when it's multiple people, the camera is zoomed out. But if it's just one person, you just get their giant face and their weird. It like that. I can understand where you're coming from, but like I said, it doesn't bother me as much as it bothers you. Though I guess I've noticed over the past several years, so I'm used to it.
Yeah. All right, your next one.
All right, my next one. We kind of touched on this a little bit, but characters fully developing and then dying. Like, look, I understand a death can be a good way to end a character's story and maybe provide something for another character. But to me, it feels really cheap just to develop somebody and then kill them the episode they've completely developed. It feels like, hey, we have nothing else for you, even though we've developed you into a pretty solid character, so we're just gonna kill you off.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It's if you've had time and they've been a fully developed character for a while, and then they sacrifice themselves, it works. But when they reach their peak, they've just had their end of their story arc, and now you kill them off. It's like, okay, so you just didn't know what to do with them anymore.
Yeah, yeah. I guess the biggest issue is it kind of work. It works in some senses because you actually grow to care about these characters. But when it happens so often, like think about this. You've brought this up before. In Naruto, we learned about Jiraiya's Sage Mode only for him to die the second we learned about his Sage Mode. Like, I'm not saying he needs to use it in every single battle up before that point, but it's still, I feel conflicted because it was a good way for him to go out, and it did provide some good moments for Naruto and Iruka in particular. But just
Mhm.
characters who it's just like, we're pretty much building this character just to die, and it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's the fight between Orochimaru, Jiraiya, and Tsunade. That imagine if that's where you first see it. You learn that there's other techniques besides just the standard ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu that we had learned about so far. And he reveals Sage Mode here as his. This is how he's trying to overcome the drugs that are in his system and be able to match Orochimaru in strength.
Yeah, yeah, and I guess and not only that, but it never feels like their deaths are like it always feels like they get screwed in some aspect. Like had they just done this one little different thing, then they'd still be alive, and they basically just get killed by like a sidekick or something like that. I don't know. It doesn't work for me. I guess part of the thing is maybe this is I'm not necessarily defending the manga writers or the animators or anything like that, but maybe it feels like they didn't expect certain characters to get as popular as they did, and that's why
Mhm.
they do it. But to me, that's kind of why you don't have a story written out from the very beginning. It's not an anime, but we saw what happened with How I Met Your Mother when they had their story planned out from like the very early stages, and we saw how well that worked.
Yeah, I mean, it can work. Um, Harry Potter's kind of a good example because J.K. Rowling knew the ending of the story, but she went the way she wanted to. And I think a lot of people think the story's told really well in that case. So it can be done well, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, that's characters developing and then dying the second it happens, basically.
All right. So my next one,
Go for it.
let's see, we'll go with kind of a similar thing. It's not telling the after kiss part of the story, ending on the kiss in a story where they get together and that's the end. There's no saying this.
I've brought this up before, and so I guess I
Mhm.
have to agree.
There's a whole part of a relationship that you never get to see, it seems like, in anime. Every so often you do, but I mean, like, the one that always comes to mind is Naruto and Hinata. We in the Naruto the Last, we get their first kiss and they start dating. The next part of the story is their wedding, and then after that it jumps all the way to they now have two kids. There's no them getting to know each other more besides being former classmates and teammates on occasion. There's no part of that story for them to develop an actual relationship in that case. But it happens in a lot of shows.
Yeah, I agree. I guess, like, and once again, not defending the animators, but I guess they could kind of figure, well, they got together. That's the end goal. Oh, and I'm thinking to myself, do you really think that every single couple in anime that will ever get together is going to have a happily ever after? You do know that divorce rates are like close to 50 something percent, at least over here in America, right? I understand, different culture. Maybe the divorce rates aren't that bad, despite some stuff I hear about marriage over in Japan. It's not going great right now. But to me, you're not educate. If you want to teach people something, teach people what goes into being in a relationship. When are moments where you need to compromise, when you need to speak up for yourself? Oh, sure, not every single one of these couples is going to be together in the long run, but it's okay. You can explore that. As long as both characters end up happy, whether they're together or not, that's kind of what we should be rooting for.
Yeah, and again, I mean, and it always seems that if we do get a sequel series that and they stay together, that they've jumped, they're now married and have kids. I mean, I think of Goku. Um, there's an anime where it's actually that's the whole story. Is the sequel story is the father or with the only child, and it's just a sad story in general, if I remember correctly.
Goodness gracious.
But yeah, there's very little. And then if it's not that when we get another story, it's that oh they broke up off screen. So you don't get the why did they break up? You get the how are they going to get back together?
I think you might like love Chunibyo and Other Delusions because in season 2 they've gotten together in season 1 and season 2 is kind of what's their relationship like afterwards. Do they do a great job of developing it? Not particularly, but like I at least give them points for trying.
Yeah, and when you throw in a relationship, especially when you've got an ensemble cast, how does it affect everybody else? I mean, so it's got to affect everybody else. I mean, as this relationship develops and it's different and their fights affect the group differently than how they would have maybe fought earlier. So it would be interesting to see how that all of that would, but we hardly ever get stories that tell us that. So.
Yeah, I will tell you one thing though: the second you start dating, it better not affect this podcast. I'm not bringing her. I'm not bringing your girlfriend on to make this a 3-person show. That's not happening.
Okay.
At least not on a consistent basis. But I guess I should hop into my next one, and kind of burrowing from that. The every male lead is dense. Like, really?
Okay.
We have to stick with this girl likes this guy, but he's too dumb to notice. And I don't like it when it happens with girls either, but clearly it happens more with guys. It just feels like a really, really lazy way of showcasing, hey, he's nice, but he doesn't completely know what to do in this situation. Believe it or not, ladies, gentlemen, others, sometimes the guys just aren't interested in real life. And it just bothers me that it's just such a cliche. It just makes most guys in anime look like complete idiots. It doesn't do anything to focus the plot.
Yeah, it's definitely overdone. It can be, I guess, accurate sometimes, but again, it is very overdone in anime. It's like, I mean, I always think of, I know it's not anime, but Phineas and Isabella.
Oh, God.
I mean, that's literally how like 90% of these kind of characters go. They literally have hearts. They have the um, oh, let's go to the dance. Great, I'll bring my brother or I'll bring my best friend, and we'll go as a group.
Yeah,
It's
and
like,
it also doesn't work because they're always stuck with the best friend who completely notices, but never has to get to say, "You idiot! You know she likes you, right?" We could wrap this whole series up in about 3 episodes. Oh, it's just let me talk. Let me talk to the guy. And they're just like, "No, not happening. Just no, no." It doesn't do anything to advance the story. It feels lazy, and trust me, there's another one I have that doesn't advance the story at all. But ooh, that's why I want you to go first because I have a rant inside me that I've been saving for a good while.
okay, okay, yeah. Well, I've got kind of one that's on a similar vein, I would say,
Oh,
to the one
I
you
really hope it's not mine, but go for it.
it. I have a feeling it might be, so I guess I'll save it for.
Just say it now. Just say it now.
It's the overly horny slash perverted protagonist
Okay,
slash
no,
best friend.
that was an honorable mention for me.
Okay, yeah. So it's become very popular for some reason to make if the character's not blind to the affection, the main character, especially if they're male, is overly horny or perverted in some way when it comes to a lot of anime, it seems like as well.
Yeah.
They I mean there's a whole bunch of them where uh, they randomly get the ability to steal women's underwear. I don't know why, but that's I've watched, what was it, Konosuba, I think, has
Yeah,
that.
Konosuba. Kazuma has that.
Then there's one I watched recently that God, what is it? I don't remember. There was another one where they kind of come back to the real world and they have he has powers, and part of them is he's just super fast and he steals women's underwear randomly. And it's like,
Jesus Christ.
but it's constant, and it's like that's their character is I'm the pervert.
Yeah, this was an honorable mention for me because there are some instances where I'm not going to say I'm okay with it, but I can find a way to live with it. And that's if let me put it to you this way. If they're interested in looking at girls, because I talked about Ryuji from Persona 5 at one point, on the channel, but he would have moments where he would like look at girls in a really perverted way, but he would never try to touch them or grab them or anything without their consent. And like I said, he would stand up for girls if they were ever felt uncomfortable. Or like in One Piece, yeah, I'm bringing up One Piece this time. Sanji's not really like that, is he? He's super horny, but he's not like perverted about it, is he?
Yeah, he's more of the I'm I fall in love with every girl I see. I don't care. They don't need to be naked. I want to date them and make them my wife.
Yeah, kind of like Brock in Pokemon. Even though some of Brock's
Mhm.
shtick does not completely hold up, there are some of those times where I'm like, dude, relax.
So yeah, Sanji probably falls somewhere around the Brock area. I mean, a bit more hardcore because he very rarely breaks free of the "oh my god, I'm in love" category, instead of where Brock will have his moment and then still send out his Pokemon to battle Team Rocket or
Yeah,
the evil team or whatever the problem is that day.
or somebody pulls his ear, or Krogan jabs him, or something like that. Like
Mhm.
it also helps if there's comeuppance to it.
Mhm.
If the person like gets their just desserts, if they get hit, if they get smacked, but even then, I'm still not okay with it. Like every now and then, when I'm looking up like images to put in the video or as a thumbnail, I'll use my hero stuff because of how often you bring it up. And when I see pictures of Mineta and some of the stuff he's doing, I'm like, no, no, not using that. Nope,
Yeah,
nah.
well, those moments that he has can be very bad.
Yeah,
But
we're also like obviously this kind of stuff happens more to women, so we don't necessarily have the best viewpoint of this, but
Mhm.
I feel like most people would agree with us on this.
Yeah, but it's a very common thing for either the main male protagonist to be have an overly horny side, or one of the male protagonists' close friends to be very perverted or horny, and it's very common throughout most anime.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for all the crap we gave girls who don't let guys explain things in anime and just hit them when they fall in the baths or something like that, when you think about it, you can kind of understand why. But of course, you just let them explain. And if they have a good track record, they'll be good. But we talked about that last time.
Yeah.
All right, my next one.
So your last one before honorable mentions.
Yeah, I kind of combine these two because they kind of go into the same vein of why I hate them. Being picked on by side characters or forgotten characters. Like let me put it to you this way: when I say picked on by side characters, I predominantly mean stuff like, for example, in Yu-Gi-Oh, when like I was rewatching Battle City, and there would be times when Taya and Tristan would be like, "Oh, Joey, you don't know what you're doing. Come on, Joe. Maybe he's not smart enough for this duel." I'm like, guys, are any of you in this tournament? I don't think so. But like, it just bothered. Look, I understand. Friends bicker with each other. We do it all the time. But there are certain moments where it's just not necessary, and it feels downright mean spirited.
Yeah, 'cause I'm trying to think. Naruto, especially in the tuning exams, you can almost throw that in there. These characters at this point haven't been developed. We've seen they were in the same class. We haven't seen any of their missions, and yes, they've made it to the finals where they're all fighting, but like they all kind of rat on Naruto. Oh, he's weak. This is Kiba's match guaranteed because Kiba was apparently one of the top students, and it's like, okay, but and we've seen Naruto was a little weaker, but we've seen him improving versus we haven't seen anything from any of these other characters until this is literally where we're seeing them fight for like the first time.
This is one of the times where I'd be completely okay with Naruto being like, what's the name of this show again? It's not Ino, is it? It's not Tenten. It's not Akamaru, even though it probably should be. It's Naruto. So all of you piss off. I don't know. It especially doesn't work in like the more serious context. Like heck, in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX, when Crowler was fighting Camula for one of the Shadow Riders, and Alexis is like, "Yeah, Crowler talks a big game, but he's not that great of a duelist." So I'm like, "He's one of the top teachers at this school. You haven't even won a duel on screen. What the hell makes you so smart?" I don't know. And forgotten characters, I mean characters like the Bastion Masawas, the Gordons from Black Clover, just the characters that characters are just like, "Oh, that's right, they still exist. We forgot to invite them." Oh well. Like it's getting real for a second. As a kid who grew up with like who wanted to fit in, who didn't feel like he was part of a group that often, it really just sucks when you see characters going through this and there's no payoff to it. Like they completely will forget about these characters and acknowledge, "Oh, that's right, we forgot about them." Just it's a joke for the rest of the series, and there are plenty of other characters, but it really just it never feels good to watch. It's not funny. It's just insulting.
I will agree to this one. That's for sure.
Yeah. Honorable mentions time.
Yeah. So
all right, I'm down to two. I'm down to two because you knocked out one of mine.
I'm kind of at 2.5 because your last one was very similar to one of mine. So I'll just start with that one.
Sure.
And that's the protagonist is considered weak at the start. That's kind of why I brought up the Naruto fight. Like everybody shit on Naruto saying he was, "Oh, you're weak. You didn't even really graduate until you stole the scroll and had to do this special thing to actually graduate while the rest of us actually passed." Yeah, like, well, I would include kind of Joey in this from Yu-Gi-Oh, but he's always considered weak because Kaib is like setting up all the ranking systems, and he's always putting Joey at like the bottom.
Yeah, I guess the thing for me is when you like, I guess you need to be a little more specific because we're not I don't think you're necessarily saying characters being weak in the beginning because we want to see them grow. Oh, you can start off weak and then get super badass. But I think I don't mean to put words in your mouth, it might be a sense of this character gets picked on for being weak, when everybody else
Mhm.
is basically on the same level of them, if not lower.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, it's kind of that they're viewed as weak at the beginning, or as, I guess I'll throw tuning exams in as kind of the beginning where everybody has a view and they don't believe that this character's had a chance to change. And so they're still considered like, oh, you're the bottom, you're not good by comparison to the rest of us.
Yeah, especially with like side characters, I can understand to some extent. But when you have just like random background characters like villagers and Black Clover or something like that, and they're talking crap about this, I'm like, God, like it doesn't make any sense. Most of you don't even have names, so like I don't know. It feels especially silly to me. So we kind of talked about that, so I can't disagree with
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, and again, when it comes to Black Clover, it's like, yes, the Black Bulls mess everything up, especially at the beginning of the series, but all of the uh, Magic Knight squads are like supposed to be the elite of the elite. Like they're supposed to be, there's no one better in our kingdom than anyone on these squads. Yes, they've
Yeah.
got different kind of views, but the Black Bulls are still probably a lot stronger than the average person.
Exactly. Now, well, why don't you knock out the rest of your honorable mentions? Then I'll do mine.
Okay. So another one is kind of, no one is just average. You can never consider a character to be just average. Um,
You mind explaining that one?
so I guess this one's not that big, but it's a big thing in shonen animes, I think. A character could be, uh, how to put it? I think Dragon Ball is a good example of this. Rather than, I mean, none of the main cast is average in any way, pretty much. I mean, uh, they've got, I mean, a whole bunch of fighters, and even Yamcha, not Tien, Chaozu,
Chaozu.
and Yajirobe are all superhuman in strength. They fought, I mean, base level Saiyans on and were on par at their heights usually.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if you go into some of the side characters, Bulma's not a super fighter, but she's a genius. It's like, it's not that, no, there's no characters in Dragon Ball that really feel okay. They're just the kind of the standard human.
Yeah. A lot
Mr.
of
Satan kind of, but
sorry.
he's super strong anyway.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that. I guess the thing for me is I'm okay with the characters like an example in Gintama. Gintoki is on obviously this master samurai. He's a badass. Well, at least when he's fighting and not like goofing off. Kagura's like this alien fighter, and Shinpachi, he's just kind of a regular run of the mill samurai. Like he's actually a below average samurai when the series starts, but it takes a very, very, very long time for him to get super good. Like, I'm okay if the characters start normal for a long period of time and then get better because he still feels normal to some extent. Like, there are still kids who are able to kick his ass at some points. I kind of understand what you mean, and to an extent, I get it, but I don't know. That's one I have to think about for a bit.
It's more along the lines of, if a character is shown and they're not just a background character, if they come back, there's a chance that they will have all of a sudden gotten a power up and are now not, maybe not on par with the protagonists, but they're no longer just a background character or a side character without power. They're, oh, I'm equal to you 5 years ago. Great, that was 5 years ago. Now I'm twice that strength or something. And
Yeah.
so it's just, they don't allow any side characters to just be the average Joe, it seems like a lot of times.
Yeah, and when they do, they're not on screen for very often.
Yeah, they're more played for comedy. There can't be, oh, I'm just here I got caught up in this, and while I'm not the strongest, I'm out of here.
I mean, technically they did that in Bobo 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 Bo. Beauty was one of like the main characters, and she didn't have any powers, but she was less there to progress the plot and more there to just point out what the hell is going on in this show. Which I'm glad somebody else was because my head was starting to hurt watching that.
And I've got one more. I'm just trying to. So I'll go with this one and see what you think about it, and that's timing in fights, like how a time plays through fights, and that's how. Okay, we've got what was it, 47 minutes for the Tournament of Power. Let's stop and have full conversations for like 3 episodes, or going back to the original Super Saiyan fight, let's have him scream for 3 episodes before the transformation fully takes, when we've already said that the plant's going to blow up in like 5 minutes.
To be fair, Dragon Ball Z Kai did fix that. To me, I don't necessarily hate it, but it's one of those things that I'm never going to get used to. That your problem with that is similar to my problem with characters in the background being completely static. It's something that's probably never going to go away. Hey, but I can understand your frustration. What they should have done, though, is and I know a YouTuber has apparently done this, they should have just showed the whole Tournament of Power in like 47 minutes. And the whole time the audience has no idea what the hell is going on.
Yeah, but it's just one of those things, like when they have these time limits and then they talk and have full conversations and stuff, it's like, so did this happen like microseconds? They actually understood the screech that was all the information in that 5-second period?
Oh no, all people from anime know how to talk like Speed Racer. It's just very fast, very concise conversations.
And Naruto does it to a lesser extent, but I think of again a lot of the war. The Might Guy, it's nonstop when Might Guy's beating up on Madara. There's no stops to talk. He's just out there beating him up, and that works. But then, like, does Madara just stand around after other parts of this fight and let them talk and strategize and all this? It's like, wouldn't he just be trying to destroy them as fast as possible?
Clearly, you have not seen Power Rangers because they almost always just let them transform, let the Megazord build. Clearly, you haven't watched most of those shows growing up because you wouldn't have that much of a problem if that was the case.
No, I watched them. That's like that's actually the other part of this is the allowing people to power up. Now, I know they've made fun of this before where I think the villain or even maybe one of the darker good guys in a show attacks during the bad guys or good guys transformation, and they're like, dude, what the hell?
Yeah, you have to give the opponent a sporting chance. That's what it's about. Like especially, and we don't talk about this anime much, in Blue Dragon, because the main character Shu, it takes him a good few episodes to learn how to fully summon his shadow or his stand or persona, whatever you want to call it. And the whole time he's doing it and like nothing's happening, the bad guy's just looking. The bad guy's just let happen. I'm like, they could at least make fun of him or something like this. Like, oh, you need something? You need a magazine for something for? Right? But if I start pouring these water glasses, will that help? Will that help with it? But no. I understand it, but to me, it's more comedic than anything else. It doesn't completely bother me.
And it can work. Like, again, especially with the transformation part, I'm fine with it in Dragon Ball because Goku and Vegeta have both admitted that they're letting them do this transformation because they want to fight the people at their best and want to prove just how strong they are.
And they're idiots.
So at least they have a reason for doing it. But everybody else is like, oh, there's like, why did you let them power up? Just attack them with everything you've got from the start.
Yeah. It's strange. Like I said, it doesn't bother me that much, but I get it.
And again, it's an honorable mention. I like the power-ups. I like the talking in fights because it gives them more meaning, but
yeah. So
when I think about it, I hate it.
My honorable mentions?
Go ahead.
All right, we talked about the pervert stuff, so explained plots or explained plans. You know what I mean by this? Okay, so but let me explain. Hey, like for example, in fights in anime, when someone's like, oh, this guy's really tough, but I got an idea. I'll use this technique, and when he dodges, I'll try this other technique, and I'll come in for him. But it never works when you say to the audience, hey, this is what my plan is. It never works. I don't understand why they let the people. They show the characters thinking out and plotting their strategies, only for it to work a good never.
Okay, I can kind of understand that.
It
Yeah,
just
that
it feels like padding out the episode too.
yeah, the out loud thinking of a plan, yeah, it never seems to work because although I like it in comedy fights where the bad guy's like in the huddle with them or something, it's like,
No,
oh yeah, yeah, go ahead and do that.
when it's played for laughs, it's good. But to me, it also just makes the character look bad because you show them coming up with a strategy that's actually pretty decent, only for the other characters to completely make it ineffective. It doesn't work. It feels like padding out the episode. Honestly, that might be why the original Yu-Gi-Oh series just doesn't hold up that well for me because they're like duels that last like 5 or 6 episodes and they'd be cut short. If people just played and stop explaining your plan to the audience, we know what's going on. It feels insulting.
Yeah, I can kind of understand that. I mean, the fight that came to mind was the Vegeta and Nappa versus the Z fighters, especially before Goku gets there, because I think they even go, "Oh yeah, it's Yamcha's turn. He's gonna do this," and then Yamcha dies.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to be fair, that's another battle where time is a weird thing. It's like, fine, let's wait 3 hours for Goku. So what's there to do here? But yeah, basically. Hey, and my last honorable mention,
Mhm.
the switching of alignments between two characters, like the double turn.
Okay.
Like I understand. Sometimes the good guy is going to turn into a bad guy. Sometimes the bad guy is going to turn into a good guy. But I hate when it's revealed. But I hate when it's revealed all of a sudden that we're supposed to be hating this person, and it's out of nowhere. If it's been built up and there's been kind of some interesting seeds planted, I get it. But for all of a sudden for it to be like, no, turns out you're supposed to hate this person, and it doesn't work for me. If it's like I can understand if it's like an episodic character, like there's an episodic hero and an episodic villain who shows up, but turns out the hero is actually the villain and the villain is actually the hero. That I can live with. But for long-term characters, just to say, "Oh, turns out they're the bad guy," or "We're gonna make them a bad guy" with really no build up to it, it doesn't work. Or it's shocking, but when you start to look at it for more than a few minutes, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I think this kind of ties a little bit into what you were saying um, earlier with, or in our previous video, where the bad guy who has done some really horrible things all of a sudden, oh yeah, they're fine. Uh, Gets like no redemption arc. They're just all of a sudden they're a good guy. Like, well, great. The character I was rooting for that was like your best friend, I now have to hate, and the bad guy who committed genocide, I'm now supposed to like.
Yeah,
Why?
a Blue Dragon did this, and honestly, I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. But I'm still rewatching it, so who knows? My opinion on it could change, but it just feels like you're sacrificing a good character just to have a plot twist. Plot twists don't fix everything. I'd rather have a story be predictable and good than have it have twists and turns and be bad. Now, granted, you could argue whether a show is predictable and good, but that's another point for another day.
Yeah, I can understand why that would frustrate you, and uh, so I guess I'll kind of co-sign on to that one.
All right, what's your last one before I get my rant out?
All right. So the single or no parents for the protagonist. I'm
I was doing
fine with
research for
showing
this video, and that did come up.
I'm fine with showing like families that have been damaged and all that, but it's never really explained well, and it's like, oh, that's my motivation. I'm following in my father's footsteps. He died trying to do this, or he's out on his own adventure and we're eventually going to see him. But it's like, okay, we have no interactions with the parents, so why do I care that your parents there?
That's a good point.
There's and then sometimes they substitute the parent for, oh, they're with their grandparent, or their grandparent-esque thing like Goku. It's like, okay, but there's just it seems like every shonen protagonist is missing either a father, a mother, or both, and they may have a wise grand parent of some kind that's teaching them, or just a group of friends that they're traveling with, and it's like, you're my family now. It's like,
To an extent, I agree to an extent. Like, if it's not the whole motivation, then then I actually kind of enjoy it, because to me it shows, hey, this character went through something, but they're moving on to other problems and they're progressing through those. Those that I can kind of understand with that, because I don't want to keep bringing up the same anime, but Naruto wasn't really about, oh, I'm doing this for my parents or anything. Like, he moved on to have other issues with other people, or Bobo. He only had a dad, but that wasn't his whole story. I don't know the full story itself, if I'm being completely honest. It just kind of bothers me that we just don't see these parents in general. Like, it's kind of weird. I
mhm.
understand that the kids are the focus, and I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. I don't want to see the boomers too often, but it doesn't feel kind of weird, especially every time I watch something. My parents are like, "So where are their parents?" And I'm just like, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think of like that was, I mean, I actually really liked Psyche in Psyche K. His relationship with his parents, they made it hilarious a lot
They
of
they
the time.
they did carry the show at some points. Like, they were super lovey dovey about it. I'm just like, okay, I don't know too many people whose parents are legitimately like that, but it's so different that I can actually respect it. And it
But
also
I mean,
works
just
it for a sense with Nendo, because Nendo's character isn't necessarily based around his deceased father, but it is kind of shown that right around the time his dad died, he learned to kind of like be a better son for his mom and help her, and he became the nice guy we all know and love. It can work, but the problem is when they make it the crux of everything, and I can side with you on that.
and but by the sounds of it, I don't remember that episode of Psyche K, but it sounds like they showed it in there, and they actually showed the relationship somewhat. But I'm talking about like Dragon Ball. There's no interaction between Goku and Gine and Bardock. Naruto, the only interactions are pretty much after his parents are dead and they either resurrected or using the last of their powers to help him.
Because that
Yu-Gi-Oh,
happens.
we never see any parents in Yu-Gi-Oh, as far as I can tell. We have
We
Grandpa,
saw
but there's
we
no
saw Joey's mom in one episode, and we really didn't see her since. Also, apparently Yugi's mom was in season 0, but that does that really count?
probably not. But then Black Clover, they're both orphans. Now I know at least I think there's a story for both of them, and
There
I
is,
haven't gotten to that part, but still
there
okay.
is, and it's I will say it's surprisingly refreshing.
So they're a little different, but still, like for the most part of the series, parents are already dead. They're a different part of the story for both him, Asta, and Yuno. God, I mean,
Let's see.
I could probably just
Noel's mom is dead. That's not a spoiler. That's pretty much revealed very early on. We don't learn a lot. Parents are right. It normally happens with moms. Moms normally end up dying, and dads normally end up going away for milk and not coming back for 20 years. But like,
exactly
it's just
Ash.
weird.
There's the other one. His dad is gone, and we don't know if he's dead. Giovanni, Professor Oak. There's so many goddamn theories about Ash's family and
There's a good
specifically his
chance.
father.
There's a good chance Ash is a Pokemon and he just came out through an egg or something like that. Now I'm
There's the
thinking
theory
about that.
that Mr.
Jesus
Mime
Christ.
is the dad.
Oh no, no! Oh well, thanks for putting that image in my head. I completely forgot what I was saying beforehand. But yeah, I would like the parents to play either a little more of a role, or for their deaths to not be the crux of a whole character. Like, it can
Mhm.
be a little bit of an arc, because the death of a parent should be a traumatic experience, and it shouldn't just
Exactly.
go away after a couple of seconds. But it shouldn't be the whole focus of the character. I can understand that.
And yeah, as I said, if it's done in the story and you actually learn something and the character grows from it, it's fine. But when it's just like, oh well, the parents are dead. Here, let's keep telling the story. It's like that's great, but yeah, I just want more from this rather than the occasional mentioning, "Oh, my parents are dead."
I can get behind that. I can go sign on to that.
All right, I'm ready for your rant.
You sure?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, so a lot of these cliches, my very last cliche that I hate in this sequel video, I can argue the good parts about it. I can argue examples where, I don't like it, but there are moments where it can be salvaged. This is a cliche that does not do that. This is a cliche I have never liked in any circumstance that doesn't progress the plot, and anything slows it down. It doesn't matter whether it's a shonen, a romance, a drama, nothing. This cliche is absolutely garbage. And the cliche I'm talking about, the interrupted confession. Are you kidding me? Every single time somebody wants to confess just simply their gratitude or an idea they have or something like that, or normally a love confession, it gets cut off by somebody running in and stopping it. This is lazy. It is a lazy way of prolonging the story, and if anything, it doesn't make me want to happen. It doesn't make me want the characters to be together, or so people stop interrupting them. It makes me go, no, I don't care about this story. You're making me hate this story more and more the more times you do this. Even if I don't like the two characters, or I don't want them to be together, it's a lazy form of storytelling where somebody walks in or there's an explosion. I don't even like it when the characters themselves decide, no, now's not a good time for me to say this, unless it's a really, really good excuse, rather than just, oh no, I'll tell them another day. I don't know how many more days you have. This series doesn't have that much to go off of. So, interrupted confessions do not work. Stop doing them.
Okay, so just a quick question about it, though. Another common thing that kind of falls right into this category is the friend group like falling out. There's multiple of them. They all fall out right after it happens. They confess their love, and then all of the friends roll out from like the closet or the side room. Is that included in this? Because the confession does happen, but it's kind of interrupted.
If anything, yes, that is included. But I'm going to touch that really quick, and I'm going to go right back to what I was saying. Because to me, it says, hey, as your friends, you don't get any time away from us. We are invested in your life. If anything, it feels really intrusive. You like moments with some friends, and you like moments with all of your friends, but you don't want to always be with them. Sometimes you just want to have a moment with one person, and that ruins it. So yes, that can be included. But back to this. There's never a moment where it's like, oh, well, this almost confession leads to this. It just leads to more almost confession. It's whether you love the character, whether you hate the character, whether you like the pairing, whether you don't. It is a lazy way of prolonging the story. And basically the writer's saying, we don't have anything. We're trying to keep the series going as long as possible, even if most people would rather have a shorter story that's a lot more conclusive and a lot more entertaining. I don't recall I don't recall a single confession being interrupted. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want to happen. And I definitely want this part of the story to keep going. It ties back to what you said. And maybe we see this couple together. Maybe we see how they progress. Maybe there's a rejection and one of them can move on with their lives. They can maybe reconcile at some point and either end up together or still stay friends. But no, this is a trope I will never like. Like I said, whether I love the couple, whether I don't, it is a lazy form of prolonging the story. And if you're really telling your audience, we don't respect you enough to just be straight up. Interrupted confession. Hate it. But I'm done being mean. And I'm done being mean. I'm done throwing stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to completely agree because I do feel that this definitely ties into okay, well, we're going to keep prolonging the build up for the relationship. just to end on the kiss and not give them their actual story of making the relationship work or making it not work, and then having to decide to move on from each other, or, as I said, fall in love and actually be together and come to respect and love each other through all that. So I'm 100%, I can agree to this.
Exactly. You guys wanted the sequel, and we're very happy to give it to you, but let us know more cliches that you guys don't like. There are tons of them out there. And if for some reason you guys prefer the best cliches video, the view count doesn't really say that, but okay. Hey, we're going to do another video of the best cliches, but I like ranting. I've come to learn that people enjoy when I rant, and I like it too. I feel a rush. It feels good. It feels good. But let us know. Any other confession? I'm stuck on confessions now. Any other cliches that you hate? And if for some reason there's a confession that got interrupted that actually progressed the story and felt natural, please tell me, and I will gladly tell you, no, you're wrong. Anything you want to say? Anything you want to say to final comments?
At this point, no. But again, leave what cliches that you think we should discuss possibly next for worst cliches. Is there any cliche that we haven't covered in our first 2 videos on this that you're like, oh my god, this is the worst cliche I've ever heard of, and I don't know why y'all don't like it, or why you do like it, I guess,
or even talk about it at this point. And just to kind of close it out, Drago Wolfbrain, somebody who commented on our last one, says as they hate the pervert cliche, the tsundere, and the lolly stuff. So the lolly, the people who look like little kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's no.
Yeah, and basically everybody agrees. A lot of people agree with our stuff, but I'd love to meet some people who don't agree with it. Let us know, and as usual, we will catch you guys next time. See, I confessed something, and it moved the story along, and it didn't get interrupted. This has been Alex.
And Richard.
And you have been listening to the Anime Egotists. Good night, and peace easy.